Good evening, everybody. It's Steve with Real Progressives, and the Federal Reserve had a memo that they put out which was regarding the get out strategy, the exit strategy for all the stimulus that they have been trying to push for the last several years. The Federal Reserve has gone beyond precedent, and they have reverted the Fed funds rate to zero for years and years and years. Fed funds rate is the rate by which banks can borrow money to lend money to you and I. And for whatever reason, there are people, and they just can't help themselves. It's quite obvious they can't help themselves. And they just want to say, end the Fed. I guess it feels good. Hashtag end the Fed, whatever. Fed handles interest rates, right? So the interest rate is set at zero. Dear Federal Reserve haters, what is it exactly at 0% you'd like them to do? Would you like to make it plus 1% to give you money to take money? I don't know. You're asking the Federal Reserve, aka monetary policy, to push a string up a hill. That's what you're doing. It might feel good, but it isn't right, and it's ignorant. So what ends up happening is that the Washington Post had this really fantastic article today, and it talked about how the Federal Reserve is looking for an exit strategy for all the stimulus that they have been doing for years now. And they're realizing that this might be their new norm. Their new norm. They know they can't jack rates up on lending because the economy is stalled completely. People are still getting work. Why is that? Because people have been bumping up their private debt. Businesses have been borrowing private debt. Private debt in the student loan industry. It always masks the problems beneath the private debt because, unlike our federal government, you and I are not able to print our own money. We're not able to expand our monetary base. Okay? We have to do work. We have to win the lottery. We have to do something in Vegas and win some lotto, anything, right? We got to do something to get money. We can't just arbitrarily say we need $20 billion and voila, there's $20 billion. However, our federal government can and must do that. So what's happened? You've seen now the terminal end of what monetary policy can do for an economy. It can only get you this far. It can set the stage for certain things. But the problem, people aren't willing to spend the money. They're just not willing to because they know that the economy is FUBAR. Most people inherently know. That's why they aren't out there spending like drunk sailors right now, because they recognize that the economy is at best paper deep. It is very, very, very thin in terms of its viability. Why is that? It's not because the Federal Reserve has jacked up rates. Anybody that talks about that and says that, doesn't it kind of make you feel like you get the heebie-jeebies, like you're dealing with someone that's not too terribly bright? It makes you feel sick inside that you're around someone who is hopelessly locked in to a faulty ideology pushed by Ron Paul. Doesn't it make you feel a little gross inside? It should, because it's really stupid. Federal Reserve has got rates at 0%. Again, 0%. I mean, I think they jacked it up to like nothing still. But bottom line is, it's still nothing. And no one wants the money. No one's taking the money. No one is borrowing the money. Why is that? Seriously, why is that? The reason for that is the Federal Reserve is monetary policy, fiscal policy that gives you and I liquidity, gives us the ability to not have to borrow money, gives us the ability to have some loose pocket change by pushing money into the economy through the 99%. Guess who does that? Congress. That's right. So the Federal Reserve is like, God, man, we're stuck here. There's nothing we can do until Congress decides to spend money. That's it. Bernanke, you can hate him all you want. I don't like the guy either. But Bernanke even said, hey guys, you got to spend some money into the economy. Now here's the problem. Obama pushed forward $1 trillion. $1 trillion in spending way back when he did his Obama stimulus plan for all these shovel-ready jobs. Well, there weren't shovel-ready jobs. And what ended up happening was the money still went to the top 1%. It still went to major corporations, and it never ever touched regular people. It was just enough to keep the economy on life support. But you see all the vote blues out there going, Obama rocked the House. He saved the economy. He cut the deficit. He cut the deficit, but he saved the economy. Think about how stupid that is. You start looking at the vote blues and you start scowling at them for ignorance. Doesn't take long to realize how dumb they were about this, bragging up reducing deficits, when deficits are exactly what we needed to get us out of this recession. We are still putzing along. We are still putzing along. And the Federal Reserve is like, geez, flip, we can't do anything. We're stuck. This is it. And there's still morons out there saying, end the Fed. You're a moron. I have to say it. So now, what do we have? We have a situation where instead of pushing our Congress to spend on us, we've got people railing about audit the Fed, audit this, audit that, and they're not saying, Congress, it is time to deficit spend right now. The Fed has done everything it can by its charter to make the economy work for us. Whether you like it or not is irrelevant. They have. What they could do is ask Congress to spend money into existence to buoy up the 99% an economy for the United States citizens. But too many of you guys who think you're cool and sharp, really got it going on, and the Fed, you're like, and the Fed. And it's like, it is toxic. It's ridiculous. Now, if you want to ask for oversight, it's already audited. If you want to ask for oversight, knock yourself out. But I don't know how you can do much different with 0% interest. 0% interest, folks. Okay? Think about that. 0% interest. And the Fed. 0% interest. So, let's talk about this for a minute. They've made it so that it's super easy for us to get into debt, yet we're choosing not to get deeper into debt because we've already maxed out, because they didn't bail us out back when they should have bailed us out. That would have made this recession that Obama inherited go away. It didn't. It didn't go away. In fact, we're still anemic. So, Federal Reserve, done its job. The one left, Congress. This is why we need a new Congress. But here's the problem. Idiots like Sherrod Brown, who I used to love, moron people like Sherrod Brown, even believe in balanced budgets for the federal government. This is our progressives out there that we could do with. They still believe in that. This is why we can't have nice things. These are the people that you would elect and fill into these slots. So you realize that it's not just good enough to be a progressive. You've got to actually be an intelligent progressive too. And so just putting a progressive in there only sort of fixes the problem. We need progressives that understand monetary sovereignty. We need progressives that understand what it means to have a Bernie Sanders type economic plan. Again, let's revisit it. Bernie Sanders offered up $33 trillion worth of new spending over 10 years. The taxes that he proposed were just to make everybody feel like the programs were being paid for. But even the right-wing magazines had a field day with it, and I loved it because I knew that it was just their ignorance coming out. They're like, hey, wait a minute. Bernie's tax plan doesn't cover all the spending. You don't say. So Bernie's doing modern monetary theory without telling you guys he's doing modern monetary theory, because your heads would explode. Most of you guys still can't get over the fact that taxes don't fund spending. And yet here we are, Bernie Sanders offering up trillions of dollars of spending. Jill Stein is offering up trillions of dollars of spending. Her tax plan, no matter what, doesn't come close to covering it. Well, why not? Because even though they tell you that taxes are going to fund it, even though they come up with some way of saying, yeah, we're going to soak the rich, because that's what you want to hear, even though that has no basis in anything, it's just a feels thing. God, I wish I could get you guys off the feels so we can make real progress. But whatever. They're putting these things out there based on the feels. We're going to raise taxes up on these people. So what ends up happening? Let's talk about it. What ends up happening? The Republicans go, well, I signed the Grover Norquist pledge, and I am not going to let you raise taxes. Now, if you were me, now mind you, I get economics. If you were me, I would say, that's okay, Republicans. Do you want your kids to have single-payer health care? Yes or no? I'll meet you in the middle. We don't have to jack your taxes up. I get it. Just don't make us forsake single-payer health care. You win, we all win. Because taxes don't fund freaking spending. Federal Reserve, back to them again. They have said repeatedly, from Greenspan to Bernanke and all the way back to Beardsley Rummel in 1946, have been saying taxes for revenue is obsolete. But yet you don't listen to that. You listen to some dude who got his economics from YouTube's, watching a live stream from a guy like me. The only difference is that I'll actually provide you with links to prove what I'm saying. Because I don't want you to just take what I'm saying for verbatim. There's people, and I want to applaud. I'm going to call out a couple people right now. A guy named Tom Pittman and Donald Oakes. Both of them have come to me here recently, and I see Tom's there. And I want to thank both of them because they listened. I was on the phone with Donald Oakes today, and I was back and forth with Tom Pittman. And I just want to tell you guys that people are listening and they're learning. They're listening and they're learning. We just need to make 1 million more people listen and learn and tell 2 friends and so on and so on and so on so we can actually make progress. Now answer this, just so you understand what a daunting task I'm putting up to you guys is. Have you ever heard HA, the Sane Progressive, any of them talk about this? It's not their fault. Most people don't understand it. Have you ever heard any of them talk about this? No, you haven't. Why is that? Because most people didn't even know that Stephanie Kelton was Bernie Sanders, not only his chief economic advisor for his campaign that built that $33 trillion spending package, but she also was his hand-selected chief economist for the Senate Democrats on the Budget Committee. Hoorah! UMKC in the House representing her, L. Randall Wray, William Black, and a host of others, James Galbraith, all know everything I'm saying. I'm giving it to you in a very, very, very dumbed down version because I'm a dumb guy too. I only know what I know, and I can repeat it with the best of them. Now, I do understand what I'm talking about, maybe a little bit better than I'm letting on, but I try my best to just repeat these things because I need you guys to get on board with at least this stuff so we can start talking policy, so we can start generating what a real progressive economic plan looks like. Because I can tell you right now, if left to the Elizabeth Warrens of the world and the Sherrod Browns of the world, they would be right there harping up the taxes fund spending crap. That's right. Those are the same knuckleheads that you worshipped that don't know dink about economics. They don't. And they will play on your ignorance, and you will continue supporting them because they will say the right things about other things, but then they will completely invalidate everything they said by hyping poor economic theory. That's why it is so important. I can tell you right now, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I will not back a party that in any way, shape, or form says that taxes fund spending. So while I support the Green Party right now in getting Jill Stein up there, I won't be a member. While I support Bernie Sanders, until he actually comes right out and says taxes don't fund spending, I can't sign up to be a Democrat anymore either. You see what I'm saying? It's important that the party not be full of ignoramuses, that at least the leadership is guiding you towards the right solutions, guiding you in the right way, because they perpetuate these lies. I'm going to go way the hell back, all the way to Roosevelt. So Roosevelt talked about how we had to pay in. He got everybody putting their gold and silver in there for the war effort. He got everybody buying into nationalism. He got everybody believing they were putting money into Social Security, and now you have money in a piggy bank somewhere because you've been paying into it for all these years. It was great psychology because you felt a sense of ownership. The reality is there was never a piggy bank with old crumpled up dollar bills in it. It doesn't exist that way. Every dollar is a new dollar. They spend new money. And what happens? Your old tax dollars get deleted and purged from the system. Your Social Security gets purged from the system. So when the Federal Reserve says, hey, we've done everything we can, and the economy still blows monkey chunks, if you don't realize that it's Congress that's killing us, and honestly, even our president, Obama's out there saying crap about taxes. And well, I've reduced the deficit. In other words, you shrunk the economy, you jackass. The Occupy Democrats memes that go around, Obama, he cut the deficit. Don't you just want to smack them? I give you permission to go to their website, and every time you see them say something about Democrat or deficits, to literally just castigate them, wreck their whole entire existence by trolling every comment they make, by trolling every meme they make, because it's absolute idiocy. I can slice it with a friggin' samurai sword in a heartbeat, and it's just ridiculous, and it's killing people. So, the Federal Reserve, they can't figure out how to end this zero interest hole they've got themselves in. They're freaking out. They can't figure out how to fix it. So here's the thing. The U.S. government has to make some decisions. We are either A, going to be a net importer, which is fine. It just gives you a different set of rules. Or we're going to be a net exporter, which is fine, but it gives you a whole different set of rules. A net exporter is no better or worse than a net importer. It just requires different economics backing the move. So right now, we as a nation are firmly in the net importer realm. We don't produce things in this country the way we did, which is fine still if you understand economics. The deal is, our government has to spend money into existence if we're going to be a net importer. Now, you've heard me say this countless times. Look it up. Find out what the trade deficit is. The trade deficit is $500 billion annually, give or take. $500 billion leaving our economy. That's not including all the tax revenue that they call it, that's leaving the economy as well, but it's overseas. So that money never makes it back in to be purged from the system, so they go and look for it elsewhere. Okay? That money ends up being purged from our economy, and it shrinks our economy and continues to shrink our economy until we spend back into the economy. It's simple. It's a cyclical thing. If you don't get this, we got work to do. This is very, very critical that you get this, because you guys are responsible, once you know this stuff, to not say anything stupid anymore. You are now forbidden to say "end the Fed." You're now forbidden to say stupid things about the Fed. If you don't understand what you're talking about, you need to back it down. You need to fix the stuff you're saying, because if you don't fix what you're saying, you're perpetuating a lie, and people with lesser skills at discerning truth will repeat your lie. So, again, Federal Reserve throwing up their hands, saying we can't do anymore. We don't know how to get out of this 0% cycle. Who owns fiscal policy? Bingo. Congress. So when you want to point the blame at why the economy isn't working, you have to look at the House. Who owns the purse strings? Who owns spending? The House. You want to fix spending? Fix the House. You want to fix the economy? Fix the House. Now, what I'm offering you, if you'll listen, if you can take your programming and rip it out of your ears and put your Babel fish in so you can hear what I'm saying, we have a way to bridge the gap with Republicans here. There is a way to do this because they love their kids too, even if they're ignoramuses. They love their children, even if they're fools, even if they're bigots. We even need bigots to vote for things the right way, don't we? We can't just write them off. We need people to get this. We can work on those other things in other ways. But on the economics, we're all in this together. And unfortunately, as long as there's dumb people in the world, even the smart people will suffer for your ignorance. And that's a problem, because I don't want to suffer anymore. We have to find a way to explain to them that it's not about jacking up taxes, because taxes don't fund spending. We could put a Wall Street tax out there. We could put a tax on carbon out there. We could even eliminate corporate taxes altogether and put some rules and regs out there by making an employer of last resort with the government that sets a $15 wage limit there, and then the private sector has to follow or they don't get the workers. See, there are ways of doing this without jacking taxes up, but you only know one way, and that's the old way, and it's not the right way, and it has not been the right way. It hasn't been the right way forever. 1946, folks, they knew this stuff. I will put an article up here shortly saying taxes for revenue are obsolete from Beardsley Rummel, who Warren Mosler, who is one of my personal heroes and friends, wrote an article about. He wrote the book called 7 Deadly Innocent Frauds, which I'll put the link in here as well. But the fact is, until you guys demand that your Congress spend into existence the money we need, guess what? We're all screwed. And Republicans, once we get them past this idea of quantity of money theory, since we're no longer on the gold standard, folks, I'll put another article in from one of my favorite economists, John Harvey, who's a professor at TCU. John Harvey tells you straight up, money growth doesn't cause inflation. So stop saying it. Those laws only pertained in a metalist environment. We're no longer in a metalist environment. We're in a chartalist environment. Chartal, piece of paper representing something else, a unit of measure. That dollar isn't a dollar. It's a representative of a dollar. You've never seen a dollar. A real dollar exists in the world. It's a figment of your imagination. The dollar is a tax credit. Okay? It's just a credit. So let's talk about that for 2 seconds real quick. If you go to pay your taxes at the IRS with a wheelbarrow full of diamonds, the tax guy may go ahead and take your diamonds, but they won't cover your taxes. Because taxes are not about revenue. Taxes are about removing currency from circulation. Taxes are about driving money. Taxes are about maintaining the value of money. Because if you don't pay your taxes, you go to jail, right? So these circular arguments that we have, these repetitious live streams, these different things that I put out there, I'm trying to give you real world view of why they matter. And today, again, I'll post the article from the Washington Post where they talk about the Federal Reserve saying, we have no exit strategy. We're stuck in this 0% financing because people don't want to get further in debt. Because there's no guarantee they'll have a job tomorrow still, because the economy is flim-flam. And because our Congress doesn't spend money into existence, contractors and other people that take that initial bit of money that pay our wages, that get us all, making money, stuff like that, they don't get the money because there's no contracts to be had because of austerity, because of the sequestration, because of the debt ceiling crap. Okay? The biggest lie of them all. The debt. Let's talk about the debt for just a couple seconds. The debt is the full measure of all the treasury bonds sold to different countries. Treasury bonds do not fund our nation, folks. Treasury bonds are just a simple way for other countries to invest in our currency to stabilize their currency. We don't require bonds to create US dollars. Think about how stupid that is. Seriously. If you've ever said it, smack yourself one time real quick on the face. I said it, so I did it to myself. And never repeat it again. It's a lie. It's stupid. There is no fractional reserve lending. Sorry, Ron Paul and your bots. There is no fractional reserve lending. Anybody that says it needs to smack themselves. It's a lie. I said it. I'm done. It's over. You guys smack yourself too. Anyway, when Congress appropriates a bill, Tito, when Congress writes a bill to spend money into existence, let's say they raise Social Security. Let's say they create a new program. They create a new agency. They say, we're going to fix 50 bridges. So the federal government is going to give the states money to spend on every bridge out there. Tito, are you hearing me, Tito? Wink at me if you are, because I'm talking in circles. Point, please. Point is that they go ahead and they send that money to the states. And the states then spend it. And guess what? They spend it on wages. They spend it on supplies. And all of a sudden that money gets circulating. And people that buy bread and buy cereal and buy milk suddenly have money in their hands. Do you get it now? Woo-rah! All right. So the reason why I'm talking in circles, unfortunately, is because people don't get the basics. If they got the basics, I would have done one of these streams and never done another. But instead, the zombie hordes come crashing against the walls, talking about taxes, funding, spending, how we got to cut spending, how, oh no, the Federal Reserve and the Fed and all this other shit. And it's stoop fuck stuff. Full-blown stoop fuck. So in order for me to get you to understand, I have to talk in circles. I have to repeat it. It's not my intent. I have no interest in doing that. I'd rather go in there and watch some of the Entourage reruns. You know what I mean? I like to watch, Johnny Drama do something crazy. But that's not going to happen because I need to make sure that our economy gets fixed. That's where I'm at right now. So, in my opinion, at this moment, it's very important that you actually understand what is versus what is not. Because what is not is lethal. And what is could be life-saving for millions of people. So our infrastructure in this country is absolutely destroyed. The Federal Reserve is trying to figure out what it can do to get out of this. Well, if our government went ahead and spent on all those bridges, instead of letting them go crappy and fall apart, and you're taking your life in your hands when you go across these bridges, if they went ahead and fixed all the levees right, properly, so that we didn't have floods in Louisiana anymore, if we went ahead and fixed the shorelines and went out there and changed our energy plan, we wouldn't have the changes in our climate, that we would have all the shorelines washing away and the climate change causing algae to come in, flesh-eating algae being melted away from ice that's long since been generations ago, now all of a sudden coming back in. Changes are all over the place because we are saying we don't have the money to handle climate change. But we do have the money, right? If Congress spends it into existence through writing bills. Writing bills that spend, say, the infrastructure bill, the education bill. The education bill offers every state $10 billion per student. Whatever, I don't know, right? This is where you start getting into policy. But we got to get to the point where you understand it's not your hard-earned tax dollars playing for Latifah's iPhone. Once you stop your racism and you realize this is not about that, once you get past your feels about, they're lazy and I don't want to pay for the lazy people, once you can understand you're not paying for them, once you get past that, then we can actually make change. And that's what this is all about. So if you look, again, back to the Federal Reserve, what is the interest rates? Next to nothing. It had been zero forever. And our economy is still flailing. Think about it, folks. The answer is to make our Congress responsive to our needs. And if you allow them to say it's pie in the sky, if you continue to say stupid things like end the Fed, instead of, hey, Congress, deficit spend, do your job, well, we're never going to get anywhere. Because the idiots are going to go out there and write up bills. We got to audit the Fed. This is the most important piece of legislation ever. Audit the Fed. Instead of spend on single payer, they're going to focus. They're going to get you on the shiny object over there that the dullest spoons crowd focuses on. instead of keeping it straight. No, no. I'm not hearing your noise. I'm asking you point blank. I want single-payer health care now. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. And I know we can do it. So every person that dies from a lack of coverage is on those people that say cut spending. That's why I call you murderers by proxy. You don't like it? Fix it. Change it. That's the deal. So anyway, sorry to talk in circles, Tito, but I love you. And it is controlled by the government because the Federal Reserve is an independent body within the government. I will send you the link. I will send you the picture. Get away from Ron Paul. Get away from the creature Jekyll Isle. Focus on what it is. Okay? They are only in power because of Congress. Congress gives them power. So again, you want a problem? You have a problem with the charter that the Fed has? Talk to Congress once again. This is why it's so important to not focus on the shiny objects that the people that don't get it spread for you to focus on. You must focus on the real root cause. And the root cause is that our fiscal policy is in the toilet. Our monetary policy has gone as far as it can go. That's it. So, Federal Reserve, I'm sorry you're stuck until the American population cares enough to push Congress to do its job. So here I am defending the Federal Reserve because our citizenry is more focused on stupid conspiracy myths instead of actually making our Congress spend the frickin' money on us for single payer, for education, for climate change, for a new energy grid, for a Green New Deal. Every one of you and the feds cut the spending stuff. You're killing us, folks. You're just killing us. This is Steve with Real Progressives. Have a great night.